Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Africam4Good show, brought to you by explore.org. Every Thursday, we're going to be interviewing an expert in conservation and talking about African wildlife, what threats the animals face, and also look at the success stories in the African conservation. It's really exciting to be able to have conservation discussions about the wildlife that you see on the live cameras every day on Explore and Africam. We know the Explore community is full of passionate wildlife lovers, and we really look forward to answering any questions you may have. Hope you enjoy the show. Okay, great stuff. Well, welcome to Manus and welcome to everyone to today's show, Africam4Good. We've got a really cool guest today with us, folks. We're lining up for the 10th of August, which you may or may not know, but that's World Lion Day. I think it's a day that we should have almost all the time, I would say, these world days, world animal days, but because they all do need as much attention as possible. So Manus is here to talk to us. He's from the EWT, which maybe that'll be the first question, Manus, for you as to what the EWT is. But thanks so much for joining me here at Africam4Good. And yeah, look forward to chatting with you and catching up with regards to all things to do with lions.
No, great. Thanks a lot for providing us with the platform. It's nice to be here. So EWT stands for the Endangered Wildlife Trust. We are basically operational in various different sectors within the conservation area within Southern Africa. A lot of people might know us for the wild dog metapopulations and our cheetah metapopulations. But we're also doing a lot of crane work, a lot of endangered species like the golden moles and so forth. And recently launched in 2020, the Big Lion Project that we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, that's basically a quick rundown of Endangered Wildlife Trust.
Okay, so that's Endangered Wildlife Trust. And how about yourself? Who are you? And you know, what's your background?
Well, no, so my background is interesting. I mean, so I'm the Lion Regional Coordinator for Endangered Wildlife Trust. So my job is very cool, actually. What I do is find lions in the Greater Kruger National Park. We're doing a big study on lions at the moment in Kruger National Park and in Mozambique on the Limpopo National Park. And my job is to find these lions, collar them with veterinarians and monitor them. And my history is basically been doing lions for studying lions for 12, 13 years now, all around Africa. And then in 2020, we got this job. So yeah, it's quite a great project we're busy working on.
Can you tell us a bit more about that one?
Yeah, so we started in 2020 with this whole COVID pandemic on a 3 to 4 year current project, which is based in the Kruger National Park, the northern sector, and into Limpopo National Park, which is in Mozambique. And the aim of this project is to collar lions that's moving between both boundaries into Mozambique and into Kruger National Park. And the reason why we're collaring them is to determine habitat usage, how they're utilizing river streams, drainage lines, and so forth, that we can assist with better and optimal ranger patrols. Now, with the lions being a targeted species these days for poaching, it is important that we know where these specific prides are located at all times, to secure them from the dangerous threat of poisoning carcasses and so forth, but also where we can then start seeing specific patterns of where they prefer to go. And then we can send that information to the rangers, and then they can determine whether they want to send patrols out there and make sure it's secure or not. So that's one of the main things we're looking at the moment within this project. Obviously, we would like to restock the lion population within the Greater Limpopo. They took a bit of a knock in 2014 to 17 through the illegal trade. And it was assumed that this knock that was taken by poachers on them was due to the export of lion body parts from South African government. It's still, undecisive exactly how that link came and what was that steep incline of the poaching. But needless to say, we need to start looking at creating a safer habitat. And by doing so, we're working closely with Peace Parks Foundation and Sandparks on all of these things: ecological movement of the lions and seeing habitat utilization, as I mentioned, also prey species availability for these animals, because it's pointless if you're trying to create an open space and there's no prey for lions. Impalas is great, but impala is not going to keep a lion full. So we need to look at specific prey like waterbuck, zebra, wildebeest, buffalo movements, how the lions are following the buffalo. So this is part of the whole project that EWT is busy working on with the lions at the moment.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a relatively new project. So I guess later on down the line, when we have another interview at some point and I ask the question, what are the success stories? I'm hoping that that's going to be one of them.
No, 100%, definitely. So we can schedule one for next year, maybe this time again.
Classic. I think a lot of people, and I'm sure you come across them, and when they see you, they always think that we must have the best jobs in the world. We're living our dreams, living our passions. And I guess my next question is quite a common one. I'm sure you get asked. And what got you into conservation? What led you down this path?
That's a good question. I think this is the most important reason as to why we are doing what we are doing as conservationists, because we are supposed to. I think we have a big responsibility to monitor and not monitor. Sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Educate the younger generation, to excite them to do conservation, because I got into conservation from a young age. We're talking about even from the age of 4 or 5, we used to go into Kruger National Park as a young kid and traveled all over Botswana during my teens and so forth. So it's always been just constant exposure to wildlife. And I think that's why we need to continue this path, all of us, working in whichever field of conservation, so we can be examples to these younger people that needs to step into our roles eventually and take over.
Yeah, I guess the concept is the same for a lot of people like yourselves. It all starts at a young age. Yeah. And like in my case, and I'm sure you're the same, it's a dream that I've always had. In fact, it's just been the way it has been, and I'm still giving back to conservation. And lions is quite an interesting one, because black rhinos are right up on the front line all day long. So are elephants, a lot of other animals or other predators. Tigers are right up there, highly endangered species. But as far as I think of it, lions are actually something that we really not so clear about as far as education and awareness goes, because they are highly volatile potentially and on their way to being way more endangered or potentially in danger. What is the setup? What is the status of lions today on a conservation level across Africa, potentially across the world?
Yeah, no, it's a good point you're making. There's been attention on, as you mentioned, on these other species for a long time, and and valid so, but what a lot of people don't realize is lions are one of those species that's going under the radar. And it's going such a rapid pace that there's estimates, from various scientists that we work in working groups that we're looking at 15 years before most lions in free roaming areas will have vanished. And at the moment, their IUCN status is as vulnerable species. And we only need to drop, or they need to decline by an estimate another 5 or 10,000, then they'll become an endangered species. And that can happen very quickly. I mean, we have lost in the last 2 decades 48% of our natural free roaming lions, and 48% in 2 decades. So I mean, that's quite a scary reality that we need to address. And like you said, lions are volatile. They're very different animals. They're difficult animals to control, to manage. But then again, when you secure a habitat, they bounce back very fast. They bounce back faster than any of the other species, such as elephants and rhinos, because of gestation periods and so forth, much faster. So there's hope for a lot of the projects that's working on lions, and we need to continue supporting all these projects.
Yeah, I mean, that is a scary sort of statistic in terms of it also does bring to the foreground just how, worrying it is that the lions need as much awareness as anything else right now. Yeah. If not, because it's under the radar, needs to be brought up to the front line. And I mean, operations like yourselves and lots of other great projects out there are doing that. And what do you reckon, I mean, what are the biggest challenges out there with regards to lion conservation?
Sure. I think, the biggest challenge I would definitely say hands down is habitat change of landscape usage. It's a lot of times it's people would use habitat loss. It's not really habitat loss, it's the change of that land. It's the land use that's being changed. Either it's gone for agriculture usage, or it's gone to villagemen settlements, or it's gone for hunting grounds. So the lions in general, all over Southern Africa and East Africa and West Africa, they are losing habitat through other utilization methods. So we need to address that issue. That is one of the first issues. And we are actually addressing this in our current project, because we're working in the Greater Limpopo National Park. So Limpopo National Park that borders Kruger National Park in Mozambique inside. It's an estimate 2.5-3 million hectares as well, similar size to Kruger. And it's been run by Peace Parks Foundation. And Peace Parks have already resettled several communities that used to survive or used to live within the community. Within the park itself. Now, I know that's another story with contradicting thoughts and discussions, and I'm not going to get too involved in opinions on whether that's the correct thing to do or not. But we need to start realizing that lions do not have a lot of space left, and we need to start saying, okay, how can we provide some form of space for them? And by doing that, you need to remove or resettle communities, because eventually communities will bring in livestock, they'll bring agriculture, and they take land. And land will basically mean lions can't compete with these species, and they will be removed. Removed illegally or legally, it's depending on the country. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. Land. Then we're looking at another big, large, it's rearing its head at the moment. It's the big illegal trade on body parts of lions. Similar route to what rhino took in the early 1900s, and I'm talking about 1990s, 90s. Lions are also now, so from 2014, we really started seeing a big increase in poaching of lions. And so not only are these animals trying to compete for land use, they're also losing natural prey through bush encroachment and bush hunting and poaching of bushmeat. And then they're also now being targeted for poaching for body parts. So an overall story, this is a major crisis that lions are sitting in, and we need to start addressing it.
Yeah, again, it does seem like the lack of space and area, who knows, maybe these people doing different kind of research, the space research, Mars, who knows, maybe we'll land up with more.
Imagine.
So that's sort of what the problems are. And have you had some success stories? I'm sure there are some great success stories out there. I know in Namibia they've got some pre-warning signals going on to let livestock owners know that lions are coming their way. success stories in your guys' operation?
Yeah, no. So we are working directly with the rangers on the ground from Sandparks and from Peace Box Foundation, and we just there as a scientific advisors. And with these lions being collared in these sections where we are operating in, once the lions move into an area close proximity towards the villages, we notify the authorities and the teams working with us, and they will send out specific units on foot or helicopter to try and deter the lions to move back. Eventually, it's working very well. I'm actually quite impressed with how quickly these guys are operational once we give them the alert. So there is definitely a big chance of survival or an increase of lions in Greater Limpopo as well. It's just going to take a matter of time. And so that's a big success story. It's slowly developing, but yes, with every success, there's 2 or 3 steps you're taking backwards. But you're learning from these steps. You're learning and you're adjusting, and then you're moving forward. But otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of different projects in East Africa as well. I know with Dr. Flip Standard and the Desert Lions, I mean, they've done some massive work there. And eventually you're going to get to the situation where they are right now as well, with the lions have reached the carrying capacity in the deserts. Yeah. So they can't, if they increase, they're going to spill over, and eventually it's just going to become more and more conflict with people that's living on the boundaries. So there's always going to have that. We're always going to have that human-wildlife conflict aspect eventually.
Yeah, well, what I find quite exciting or encouraging is that most of the projects that I've been involved in or know of people that are involved in them, it seems that once the communication program starts with surrounding communities, because it's the animal-human conflict is one of the main problems. And of course, there's the poaching and the illegal trade side of things. But in terms of getting communication going, it seems that a lot of people are not there to wipe animals out. They're quite happy to live together as long as there's a solution. So those solutions, communications, helicopters, getting people involved from communities. We had a great discussion with one of the anti-poaching units, the Black Mambas, and they go back into the communities and educate the kids and basically, putting out awareness that we can actually live together. And I do think, like you say, they're great successful projects. That whole process has been quite successful, which I think is quite positive and always keeps me excited and encouraged. Yeah. So my next question then in that case is also one that I'm sure you get asked a lot. And you probably, I don't know if you're the same as me, there's so many great things that we get to experience. It's hard to actually pinpoint them. But what is there a specific memorable moment that you've had in your field that you can remember, or that you refer to all the time in terms of a special day out or something like that?
Sure, you're putting me on the spot there a little bit. I can say from the work that I'm doing over the years is not necessarily a special moment, but it's more about, for me, I enjoy tracking the lions, working on finding them more than I actually enjoy viewing them. It's quite a weird concept for most people, but lions are not the most thrilling species because they sleep so much. So for me, it's more about, especially the lions that I work with over in South Africa and Mozambique and previously in Namibia and so forth. Now, these are animals that's very wild, they're skittish. So for me, it's all about trying to anticipate their moves, where they've gone and why they did this and why they're doing this. And then also when we do the call-ups at nighttime, trying to get the lions to come to us. And then that's for research purposes and trying to collar them. And these skittish lions, they don't come in quickly and they normally wait for you to leave. So these are things that really makes the job worth it for me. Yes, I've had 2-week-old cubs that's like this size that I've seen that can't even open their eyes. I mean, those are memorable things, and that'll always stay with me. But I think it's about the hunt, in brackets, the hunt and trying to find them and trying to understand why they're doing what they're doing. So then we can then transfer or relay this information to the community so they better understand how to adapt their grazing methods as well. I think those are very important aspects that it makes me wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to try this line one more time.
Yeah, I guess that's probably actually what it is. the question maybe should be, what is it that wakes you up and gets you out of bed at crazy times every single day? And I guess it's like that. It's the anticipation of, are we going to find them? What are they doing today? Or maybe it's taken weeks to find a certain skittish pride, and bang, there they are. I mean, we do live quite special lives. And like you say, it's hard to pinpoint something. But I guess seeing some young cubs and things that people just never get to see is super special. And that brings me, to my last sort of question, and that is also maybe quite a common question that we often ask ourselves. What would you pass on to anyone watching this interview, kids, adults, anyone's interested? What can people do? What can people push out there in terms of a mindset to enhance, in this case, the protection of lions? But that goes for any of the wildlife that we get to deal with and see on a daily basis.
Sure. I think, especially for the younger generations, it's they must firstly understand that getting into this industry, you're not going to be wealthy. I think that's the most important thing that you all know. So it really is about your passion, because, if you don't have passion, there's no point in doing this. Passion is a thing that, for me, that wakes you up in the morning. So ideally, it's to find that species, whether you're passionate about an elephant or a rhino or a snake or a beetle, to actually just take that small passion and let it grow like a seed. Let that take you on journeys. Learn more about it. Go online, contact these groups that's busy working with these animals, and eventually it'll come to you. You say, oh, okay, let's do fundraisers, or let's do fancy dinners to raise funds for these things. We have got team members that's working for the Endangered Wildlife Trust that's doing work on lizards. And I'm thinking, how do you guys even, how do you get how do you wake up in the morning, just to go for that in the field? And they have some of the guys they are searching for months now for a golden mole rat, that's known to be extinct, but now apparently there were sights of it. So I'm not sure how true it is yet, so don't compare this too much, but so it's these things, I'm wondering, how do these guys even get funding? How do they, so it's their passion that also is transcendent in front of people who wants to donate. So if you have a passion about something, go for it. And remember, the journey is hard. It's not going to be easy. The journey is hard. And if you're not willing to eat some rocks, you're not going to be successful, in my opinion. So that's my little advice that I can give to people that's trying to get into this industry, whether it's as a researcher, a filmmaker, a presenter, a ranger, whatever the case.
Yeah.
It's a tough journey.
No, classic. Well, thanks so much for your time. And
awesome.
Although it's relatively short, but we really appreciate it. It's always fantastic to have input from folks that are out there getting on ground level, tracking stuff, documenting things. And I think the concept of enthusiasm for anyone who's watching this interview, guys, is find out what you really want to do. What is it you want to give back to? In this case, on the 10th of August is World Lion Day. Do some research on where lions, where they are, how many are there, what happened to them, how quickly they're dying out, why they're dying out. And then you start to see what you can do, because we can definitely, as a group, do huge amounts. And like you say, there's some great success projects out there. That goes for anything, black rhinos, white rhinos. And you may remember in the 60s, white rhinos were almost gone. They were down into double digits. I mean, it's quite a phenomenal concept. So we've been here before, and having platforms like Africam, like operation you guys are doing, and all the other projects all over Africa really do have a great impact. So if anyone does have a passion in conservation, carry on with enthusiasm, go for it, pick out goals and find a way to get there. Marnus, thanks so much for your time. Great catching up with you, and thanks for all your hard work.
Anytime. Thank you, guys. Have a good time, man.